Today's March 18th, 2025, and welcome to the 431st episode of the Video Games podcast. Here on the show, I talk about any game at all, including new stuff, old stuff, and anything in between. My name is Brad Galloway, and I'm the one-man host of this show. I'm also the editor of GameCritics.com, a website that uses the full range of review scores from 0 to 10, while also offering full accessibility info on every review that we publish. Hello, thank you for joining me today. And I guess welcome back to me and also to you. It's been a little bit of a crazy time here on the show and also in life, mostly in life, and that affects the show. Before we get into things today, before we get into the usual to-do, I was going to announce a change in format, starting with this very show. I went into this a little bit last time, but in case you didn't hear last episode or in case you just missed it altogether, traditionally I have been covering like loads of games on each episode, like 3, 4, 5, 6 games per episode. And we also do like some TV and movies, and we do some current events or whatever and stuff like that. And that's fine. But I have noticed that in recent times, my in real life, or IRL as the kids say, all my stuff going on outside of gaming has been kind of busy lately. So projects and work have kind of picked up. Personal life stuff has been picking up because I still homeschool my son, who is 16. And then there's all these other things I got to take care of. Life just kind of happens as you make your way day to day. And I think because of that, I was noticing that it was getting harder and harder to actually just find the time to do a huge episode. Usually, on the average, I think I probably do at least an hour episode, but frequently we've done 90 minutes or even 2 hours. And so sometimes I was finding that I just didn't have that much time available. And because of that, episodes were coming out more infrequently, which I really didn't like. I like to be timely. I like to be weekly. I like to be regular. As a podcast listener, I loved getting regular shows from people. As a podcast maker, I like putting out regular shows from people. So I thought I need to maybe do a little bit of a change just to kind of roll with current circumstances. So the new format is not really that different from the old format, but I think that I may go one of two ways. On a week or two when I am kind of wrapped up in one or two particular games, especially when I find games that I want to finish, games that are really quite good and I think that are worth my time and that really beg to roll credits on, I may end up just doing like just that one game for the show, because trying to finish something takes a lot of time. And if you got a job, you got kids, you got a spouse, you got other obligations, whatever, it's really tough to just play a game at all, let alone play 5 or 6 games during the same week and then still try to finish something. It just, the math wasn't mathing on that, right? So I think in general, when I hit a game that I really like, and one that I really like is going to be the topic of today's show, I think I will just really just focus on that one, and I just might not have to do 5 or 6 games because there just isn't time. It's just not feasible anymore. And when I hit those weeks where I am finding that I'm playing a lot of stuff that isn't keeping my attention, stuff that's just like okay, or stuff that I just know I'm not going to finish, I will still try to cover as many of those as possible, but I may either do 1 or 2 shorter episodes during the week, or maybe I will try to record those like stream of consciousness style as I play them during the week. So for example, I usually would like save everything up until Sunday, keep notes, make a script for myself, and then just like blast it all out on Sunday morning. But that's just not working out. So I think that I may do like, maybe on Monday, I'll play one game and I'll talk about it that night, and maybe I'll just save, don't publish a podcast, hold on to it. And then maybe Tuesday, play a different game, and then I'll talk about it that night. And maybe going bit by bit would make more sense. I'm kind of just trying to find my way. I'm still going to do a show. The show's not going away. But I think the current method of doing the show just isn't compatible with my current lifestyle and time obligations, or time limitations, I guess. So there's still going to be a show. I'm just kind of like finding my way through it. So I'm totally open to feedback. If folks have ideas, if you've got requests, if you like something, don't like something, you may see a couple different formats coming out in the next couple weeks. Today, the basic format is I'm going to just do like one circle back, and I'm going to do one game, and that's about it. That's all the time I have for, that's all the amount of gaming I got in. So I'm going to put that out, even though it's not really the type of show that maybe listeners have come to expect. But then, maybe the next time I'll cover 2 or 3, or maybe I'll cover 1. I don't really know. So I think something's got to shift because it's just not working. And hopefully y'all will stick through me with this transition going on. And while I try to find a new rhythm or a new groove to things. So we'll see how it goes. But again, let me know your thoughts. You like, you don't like, you want something different. I don't know. We'll figure something out. But the show's not going away. And these podcasts will still be coming out at least weekly, if not more often than that, if I do shift to a shorter format. So we shall see. All right. Ordinarily, I would kick things off with housekeeping, but God's honest truth, I don't really have a lot to talk about. There's been a few things that have popped up here and there, but just kind of in the interest of getting this new format off the ground and getting this episode out the door, I think I'm going to skip it. There's not really a whole lot of stuff that I wanted to talk about other than the ongoing strikes for SAG-AFTRA and the video game voice actors. That battle is still happening. There was some kind of kerfuffle about Aloy from Horizon getting like an AI model, and that's kind of pissing off some people and maybe putting voice actors in danger there. AI, it just seems to be just everywhere these days. It's kind of irritating. Other than that, I think a bunch of people got laid off. I want to say it was the people who did the Mordor. Yeah, that's right. The Mordor games. Monolith, I believe their name is. And I think they were working on, if I don't have my wires crossed, I think they were making a new Wonder Woman game. But they were the folks that did like the Nemesis system. That was like all the rage a couple years back or several years back. Those were actually quite fun. And apparently Warner Brothers just shut them all down. So I guess I'm pouring one out for my homies over there. And I believe, if memory serves, they were also somewhere in the Seattle area. So they're probably my friends and neighbors, and I didn't even realize it. So anyway, not going to get into depth about all those things. You can look those up if you like. There's been, there's definitely been stuff happening, but I'm going to just call that good and just move on to the main portion of the show. One more thing. Want to give a special shout out to a recent listener, Wyatt, the cat addict. What's up, Wyatt? Thank you for listening. Was talking to Wyatt, and they were saying that they were listening to the show, and just kind of talking about that for a minute. Fellow Transformers fan. So what? What's up, dude? Thank you for listening. I really appreciate it. Thanks for the chat. Thanks for the words, and we'll talk later. All right. Beyond that, let's get to the main portion of the show here. We will keep circle backs for sure. And this is where I circle back to things I've covered in depth on previous episodes. Not going to get into all the details right now, but just think of this as a quick update to let you know if my thoughts have changed on something for better or for worse after spending more time with it. Also, I know that I'm kind of like stumbling my way through this episode, so I'm kind of winging it, kind of like feeling it out. My apologies if I'm not my usual smooth, polished self, but I think this is just a temporary growing pain. Still about to talk about some stuff, beginning with Monster Hunter Wilds. That's going to be my circle back for this week. Okay, I do not remember where I left off last episode, but Monster Hunter Wilds, which I basically rolled credits on a couple days ago, at least a couple days ago, maybe a little bit longer than that. Played through the campaign, and my general feeling on it was that it was pretty middling. Overall, it's kind of a very stripped down, very restrained and limited version of what I expect from a traditional Monster Hunter. And, if you listen to the last previous shows, I am definitely a Monster Hunter guy. I've played basically all the games. I've finished, I think, almost all of them. So I've got certain expectations about, what I'm looking for. And I get that I may not be the representative audience that Capcom is shooting for. I mean, I'm sure that I'm not. So long story short, basically in Wilds, they offer up a 15 to 20 hour campaign that is just like nothing's really in it. Like, you fight monsters for sure, and you make weapons and armor, like the basics, but it's just a lot of cutscenes, like way too many cutscenes, way too many walk and talk areas, way too much stuff that I honestly didn't care about. I didn't think the story was particularly interesting. It didn't really keep me engaged. And after about, I don't know, maybe 10 hours or so, I started just skipping the cutscenes because I just wanted to get back to the action. But the campaign is just for people who want the flavor of Monster Hunter. Maybe they want to dip a toe in. They just want to see what it's all about, but they don't want to learn like all the systems and don't want to learn all the nuances with weapon creation, armor tweaking and stuff like that. They may not even know about it. And I don't say this as a negative, right? Like, because Monster Hunter has a famously steep learning curve. It's hard to get in if you don't have a friend who can kind of walk you through things. It's a lot. It's really overwhelming, but it's also really fun and it's really popular. As far as I can tell, I believe it was J Monster who told me that Monster Hunter World ended up being Capcom's biggest selling game ever of all time. So there's definitely people who are aware of it, But it's a thing. It's a thing, right? It's a whole thing. And so the Wilds campaign has clearly been geared to get more people in who might be monster curious, but don't know what's involved or don't really know what it's all about. And I've had that experience with people I've talked with as well. I've talked to several people who know me as a Monster Hunter guy, and they want my opinion, and they want to ask me about questions and stuff like that. And a lot of these folks are surprised when they actually play it because they think it's going to be more of a regular game where you just, you take a weapon, you run into a level, you beat up on some monsters, you collect some items, you come back and just, you get stronger and you just kind of power forward. And it is kind of like all of those things, but it's actually so much more. So I think the campaign is pretty dull. I think it's really boring. I don't think the story is interesting. And I think that it does players a disservice because it skips explaining on basically every system. They don't even really talk about trapping until after you've rolled credits. There's not really any side quests of note until after you roll credits. They don't really talk about like the high rank armor where you've got gem slots and how the gem system works. And how you can modify different things and different stats. Like there's quite a bit in this game. Oh, the farming or, whatever passes for the farm these days. It's more of a gathering rather than straight up farming. Like all that stuff, which is traditionally in the Monster Hunter campaign, is just all of it's held back until after you roll credits. What you get before credits is just the bare bones, straightforward, grab a sword or axe or whatever, jump in, hack away at a monster. And the campaign is pretty easy. I think between the lower difficulty of the monsters, the availability of resources, how frequently the game goes out of its way to kind of heal you and keep you in the fight. And if you use the AI hunters, which you can call at any time, they're basically invincible. And they will just show up and like hack at a monster and take care of it. They'll do the lion's share of the work for you. So And that's fine, right? That's fine. I think that's okay if you just want to jump in and get a taste. But like, honestly, it's not great for people like me who want a little bit more from that experience, who want to get that Monster Hunter flavor. So you basically have to get through the entire campaign, which is between 15 or 20 hours before the game even really gets going. The real Monster Hunter starts here, but that's 20 hours after you push start the first time. So that's kind of a lot of time to ask of someone to get into it. Although, to be fair, Monster Hunter games are notoriously difficult and long. And, I myself have said that in Monster Hunter Freedom Unite on the PSP, I logged easily probably almost 600 hours, between 500 and 600 hours on that. On most of the other Monster Hunter games, I've easily logged like 100, 200, 300 hours, no problem. So I get that in that context, asking someone to sit through 15 hours of a quote-unquote tutorial to get to the good stuff isn't that big of an ask if you're going to be sinking another 200 hours into it. But at the same time, someone like me who knows what's going on and knows how to play and has that experience already, that's kind of a long time to wait until you get to the good stuff. So that's where I kind of landed on the campaign. It was pretty dull. I was not having the greatest time, and I really wanted to get to the good stuff. Rolled credits, beat the last boss, and it was kind of funny because I beat the last boss. I'm like, is that the last boss? Was that? I wasn't even sure. So I blew past that. And then credits roll, and then all this other stuff opens up. You get a jillion side quests. The farm thing opens up. They start talking about high rank materials. They start talking about high rank monsters, and like all the other stuff that I was waiting for finally like unlocked. And so it sucked to have to take that long to get there. But now that I'm here, I'm actually having a much better time. The monsters are a little bit more challenging and more interesting. And I'm not a difficulty whore. Like, I'm not here to get my ass handed to me. Like, I think the monsters just play a little bit better. The requirements for armor goes up, and so you have to work a little bit harder to get the armor and weapons you want. There's more materials. You've got your gem slots to give yourself different attributes in your armor. Like, all the tinkering and mixing and matching and min-maxing and all those things that I liked about original Monster Hunter mostly came back. Some things didn't really come back. I think meals isn't really much of a thing. Roasting meat isn't really much of a thing. And I will say, the fishing is fucking god awful in this game. I absolutely hate it. It is the worst fishing game I think I've ever played. It is miserable. In previous Monster Hunters, you find a fishing spot, you cast in your lure. Sometimes you have different baits, sometimes not. But you just throw in your lure, and then, 3 seconds goes by, a fish nibbles, you hit the button, catch a fish. Easy. You have to do it to, like, get the materials because you use fish parts for various things. But, it was no big deal. It was fine. You collected plant material, you collected stone and gems, you collected fish, you go back to your base. All good, fine. In Monster Hunter Wilds, it is the most fucking miserable fucking game. I fucking hate it. I just fucking can't stand it. Where like you have to go to a fishing spot, you cast in your lure, and then like you just have to like wiggle the lure around and the fishes ignore it, and it takes fucking forever. And it just like, I mean, to be fair, I have put 35 hours into this game so far. I have not caught a single fish. It is just difficult and irritating. They don't tutorialize it well. And I avoid it. I just don't want to do it. There's one side quest that I think I probably will never finish because I just don't fucking want to do it. So I hate the fishing. I want Capcom to fix the fishing. It's miserable. But I will say, other than the fishing, which sucks shit, I think the rest of the game is definitely picking up. I think it's more of what I expected. I'm still kind of like clawing my way through it. So, you know, if you had asked me to give the game a final review after rolling credits, I probably would not have given it very favorable marks. It felt like a very pared back and limited thing. But now that I've gotten to the post game, which honestly is the real game, that changed, right? My opinion of it improved. And I can't give it a score right now or anything like that because there's still so much more to see and I'm still exploring things and learning things. But definitely better. So I hate to be that guy who says, "Oh, you just gotta keep playing. It gets good 20 hours in," which sucks, but it's the God's honest truth. Like if you are looking for traditional MH action, it's not available until at least 15, 20 hours into the campaign, which sucks, but it is what it is. So forget the story mode. If you read a review and they just talk about the story mode and that's it, they really haven't experienced the majority of the game, which, I mean, to be fair, as John from Gaming the Wild said, you got to play the game that's in front of you. And I get that, and I actually agree with him. But I think it's just kind of unfortunate that you don't really get to see the entirety of the game until after credits roll. There's so much that is held back until after credits. It's just kind of mental. So anyway, I will circle back again. I'm not ready to give a final score on this. I need to see more of the high rank. I need to find the real last boss. I need to make some more weapons and armor. I need to discover some more things. There's still quite a bit. In fact, the majority of this game is held back until after credits, which again, crazy. So there you go. That is my circle back on Monster Hunter Wilds, my crazy, rambly, ranty circle back on Monster Hunter Wilds. I will be talking about it again. I'm not sure when, but probably not until I'm ready to give a full actual score. So it might be another couple weeks or so. But there you go. That is my circle back, Monster Hunter Wilds. All right. Next up is a game I kind of took on at the last minute called Centum, Centum, coming from developer Hack the Publisher. That's the name of the developer, is Hack the Publisher. And the actual publisher is called Serenity Forge. And I do enjoy several Serenity Forge games. I think they're kind of an underrated developer. No, I'm sorry, publisher these days. Underrated publisher is what I meant to say. I really like quite a lot of their work, and I think they've got some good folks over there. Anyway, Centum, what is it? That's a real good question, and I don't even know how to answer that. Ostensibly, it's kind of like a 2D point-and-click pixel-based puzzle game, but it's also kind of a visual novel, but it's also kind of an art house piece, I think. It's really hard to put into words, but I'll try my best. I'm playing it on the Switch, FYI. Basically, you start the game and you don't quite know what's going on. There's like no context. Some stuff happens and you eventually talk to a guy, a monster, like a human type person with like 5 faces, and they're asking you questions that you don't really know how to answer. Like the first question is like, what are you? And you've got like a poet, a warrior, a friend, a lover, whatever, a bunch of answers. And so you just pick whatever. And every time I answer one, the guy's like, liar. And I'm like, bro, I don't know what's going on. And so they ask you a series of questions that you just don't really have context to answer. Fine. And then you are in this room and it looks like a dungeon room. There's like a bed and just like stone walls and stone floor and a table and a window and a door. And then you just kind of click around on stuff to see what happens. You click on the door and it'll be like, do you go closer? You're getting scared. And I'm like, yeah, maybe. Yes, sure. And you get these weird answers when you click on things. And then sometimes something happens and sometimes nothing happens. And so you kind of click on these various things and get these really abstract responses. And I guess you're just supposed to kind of like over time kind of put it together and figure out what's going on. You can look out the window and see a city out there. And then after you do a couple things, I think you like fall asleep and you wake up and you're like in the exact same cell doing the exact same things, but like some things are slightly different. The view out the window might be slightly different. What it says when you click on the door might be slightly different. And so you're kind of meant to kind of like observe changes over time and to kind of absorb what that means. But it's all extremely like capital A art house aesthetic and just very abstract. Like this other part of the game in the same room is like you see a mouse hole and you go to look at the mouse inside the hole, and it's like this hideous semi-human mouse rat abomination. And I was like, oh my God, I feel scared even looking at this. It's fucking horrifying. So good job to the art team on that, because it's truly gross. And then you like open up a trap and you put the trap there and the mouse dies in it, and then you kind of think about it and you have some more choices to choose, and you kind of just roll on doing the same day over and over with like these slight choices. You can also back out of this room oddly, and then you go to this like desktop interface with files, and some of the files have just like weird things in them that you don't understand what they are. You can copy and paste a couple things, and it just like, you're just exposed to this stuff. And I mean, honestly, I can't really make heads or tails of it. I feel like you need a lot of patience and a lot of like open-mindedness to kind of take all this information in and absorb it all. And I'm sure it's going somewhere. But I just don't know what to do with it all. And to be perfectly frank, I don't think this is the experience for me at this time. I think I need something a little bit more concrete, something a little more clear and concise. Never been the biggest fan of these kinds of experiences in general. Just this really abstract, like imagery, thoughts, little snippets of language. Never been my jam in general. And like, especially right now, when I feel like, and this is my personal thing, I mean, this is not a criticism of the game, because games can be as artistic as they wish. That's totally fine. But for me, being very busy and having a lot of things going on, when I sit down with a game, I'm very objective oriented, and I want to get some stuff done, and I want to jump and kill some stuff or just do whatever. I want to feel like I've made some progress. And this game does not really accommodate that. And that's fine. It's, again, not a criticism. It's just like, you are your thing. I am me. Maybe we are not a good fit right now. But I found it kind of frustrating. And I just was trying to look for a good way into this game mentally, and I just couldn't get it. So I get what's going on. Like, the changes and small clues and careful observation. And the artwork, again, is pretty phenomenal. I think the artwork is great. But I just don't think I'm in the mood for like a high concept piece like this right now. But I would recommend it to anybody who like really likes art house games, or really abstract games, or like thinky games, or really obscure games. There might be something to really chew on. And I've heard the experience is not that long, a couple hours or whatever, which is great. So always in favor of a game getting in and getting out. But just not the right fit for me, although I do find it very artistic and challenging and curious. But again, just not my jam at the moment, and that's not really anyone's foul. It just kind of is. So that is Centum, Centum, playing it on the Switch. All right, last game of the show in this new shortened format is Sorry, We're Closed. It's from developer Alamode Games, coming to us from publisher Akupara. And Akupara is another good one, too. I think they're also someone who needs more love and more recognition than they're getting. They're a pretty good publisher. I enjoy many of their games. And Alamode Games, I think this is their first one, and wow, what a banger to come out swinging on. Good stuff here. What is Sorry We're Closed? It is a RPG, sort of. It's also a little bit of an action game, and it's also all done in PlayStation 1 era blocky character style, like clunky controls, blocky visuals, and a little bit of Resident Evil flair with some fixed camera angles. So you walk around this town. You play a girl who's working in a shop, and she has friends who live on this very small street that she's on. It's like a street. Her apartment is at the corner, and then there's like maybe like 4 shops on the street, and people kind of like hanging out and talking to each other. Very like bohemian, kind of like, I don't know, young, energetic kind of like place for people to hang out. The cool kids can hang out. The art style, despite being a PS1 retro, is fucking fantastic. I am not one who has a lot of love for that PS1 retro style. I mean, I was alive and playing games. I played a billion PS1 games. I still have them. So I definitely spent my time in the PS1 trenches. But, we've moved past that. Like, it was a experimental phase in the games industry, and we were learning how to use 3D space and learning how to use polygons, and, cool. I mean, that was something that we had to do. Like, PS1 had to walk so that PS2 could run, right? Like, and we all just kept running from there. So that's fine. But I just don't really love that era or that aesthetic, and I don't really want to go back to it. So I wasn't sure that Sorry We're Close was going to be for me, but it had this vibe to it. Like when I looked at the screenshots and read some descriptions and watched a video or two, I'm like, God, maybe this is for me, even though the graphics were just not for me. And you know what? It really was for me. The graphics style is just really strong. The artistic sense, the vibes, the angles, it's just really strong. Everybody looks like super queer and androgynous, and there's like neon colors, and everybody's kind of like just got this like look about them that's like vaguely sexual but not really. And it's just like everything about it just kind of like oozes this kind of like lower brainstem kind of energy. Like it kind of spoke to me on some basic level where I'm like, okay, like I kind of want to see what's going on here, because this is very, very interesting. More interesting than I would have thought. The hand-drawn art that accompanies the game in certain cutscenes or in the promo materials, like phenomenal, like very phenomenal. I really like the way it looks. And how that translates to the PS1 graphics, pretty surprising. It's more effective than you might think. So even though the characters are made out of like 17 triangles, it works. Like it really works. There's a couple scenes that I think are pretty horrific. Some that are kind of scary. Some that are like overtly sexy. And like, even though they're working with such self-imposed like low-tech graphics, it all really comes together. And that's kind of matched with the writing. This is such a really strange, off-the-wall, eerie, abstract game. It's kind of a personal story. It's kind of a romance. It's also kind of like fantasy, like religious type fantasy. It's also kind of like horror, straight up horror and fear. It's like this weird jumble of like all these things. Now, I'm not going to spoil it because the overall experience, I want to say, is like maybe like 6 hours. Give or take. And so it's a brief experience. I'm not going to spoil everything, but like the gist of this is that the character you play just gets out of a relationship. They just broke up. And so they're kind of like trying to mend their heart and trying to pull themselves together. And so they're killing time doing this like dead end job in a shop. And then things start happening on the street. And it soon turns out that they live in a world where demons and angels are just like a thing. And not everybody can see them, but your main character can, because reasons, which I will not really go into right now. But you meet one particular demon who is interested in you, and they're kind of fearsome and kind of scary, but also kind of interesting. And I think it's a really challenging, sort of unusual way to illustrate and to write a character where they are not a villain, they are not a love interest, they're kind of like both, and they kind of go back and forth, and they seem like, rather complex, which I think was great, and I think that really sold the experience to me. The writing in general, I think, is quite good. It's very clipped, and it's very suggestive, and it's very short. It gets in and gets out, tells you what it needs to tell you, and it doesn't like linger. And sometimes it's almost to the point of where you think like you might want to know more, but they do leave many things hanging to where you are just like tantalized. Like you're thinking, what does that statement mean? Like they left that there. What am I supposed to infer from that? What am I supposed to think about this? And the way that they talk and the way that the characters handle demonic presence, angelic presence, what's going on, curses, weird things, horrible things, evil things happening in the town, they all kind of take it in stride in a way that does not feel forced or artificial. It's just this kind of like altered reality that they're all in. And it just all really works. Like it comes together to have this like very like esoteric, kind of like mystical, kind of like, even almost Lynchian in a way. Like if you ever see a David Lynch film where everything is like weird AF and like nobody's explaining everything, but they just kind of live their life and persist, and things happen, and you watch the whole movie, and like there's high points and low points and vibes, and you get to the end of the Lynch movie and you're like, I don't even know what that was even about, but I think I loved it. That's kind of like what this game feels like. It's very Lynchian in the sense that it does not really bother to explain itself that much. It does not outline its rules. It does not explain every little detail of the world. It gives you enough. It gives you scenes, it gives you images, it gives you feelings, and then you, the player, kind of just like roll with it. You just keep going, put it all together, and just end up where you end up. And it really worked for me. It really did. I'm kind of surprised because I don't know that this would ordinarily be my thing, but like the art was so strong. The weird, semi-queer, everybody's like mega horny, neon looks like super worked for me. And like the writing, the puzzling, half-truth, wink, wink, kind of like suggestive writing totally worked. I thought it was all just very well done. So I thought that was all great stuff. I was really eating it up. I really liked it a lot. It was definitely on the right side of the artistic tracks for me. And I love that. Whereas Centum might be a little bit on the wrong side of the tracks. I think Sorry We're Closed, absolutely on the right side of the tracks. As far as gameplay goes, I admire what they did there. It's very reserved, very small, very contained. But that's entirely to its credit. You don't have a whole huge world to get lost in. You don't have 1,000 rooms to search. You've got just a few areas, and so you get to know them pretty well. And then you go to these new parts of the game when you need to explore. They're about, I'll call them dungeons, even though they're not exactly dungeons. I'm trying to keep things under wraps for you here. But as you investigate the angels and demons, as you try to figure out what's going on with your love life, as you try to figure out what curses are about in this town, you go to these few dungeons. And they're also small, but you feel like you explore them. They've got some cool ideas. They've got some cool visuals, very cool visuals, especially the further you go in the game, the more abstract and the more strange the visuals get. And it's just great. I'm just eating it all up. The imagination on display here is really strong. And so you just go through these areas and you discover things. There's a few pickups, not many pickups. There's not too many rooms. You're not doing too much searching. There are puzzles, but they're not brain benders. I think it just all comes together. It's just enough game to keep the whole thing moving. There's just enough story to keep the whole thing moving. There's just enough vibe to keep the whole thing moving. And it all just works. It's all just in the exact right amount. So I like that very much. If I had to have some complaints or maybe criticisms of Sorry We're Closed, I think the biggest thing that I had a minor issue with was the combat, because there is real-time combat in this game. And it's interesting because your character gains the use of a third eye. So you're normally walking around looking at the regular world, and then you hit the third eye with a button, and a little sphere of influence appears around you, and whatever is in that sphere changes. You see what it looks like in the other dimension, or the angelic dimension, or demonic dimension, or whatever. And it's the same level, but it looks wildly different. You might be in a regular business office, desks, paper, copier machine, whatever, and then you hit the button, and then all of a sudden everything is chain link fence and blood and metal, and then you can go back and forth anytime you wish. Or you'll see a person on the street and it's your friend, and then you talk to them and they look normal, and then you hit the button, and then all of a sudden you realize, oh my god, this person's actually a demon. I can see their demonic aspect once I use my third eye. So that effect is really cool. But the other thing that's interesting about this is when you go to the third eye, and when you aim, specifically when you're aiming, when you're about ready to attack, it goes to first person perspective. So most of the time you're walking around third person, overhead views, fixed camera views, Resident Evil style, old school Resident Evil style. And then you can use the third eye to see different dimensions. And then when you go into first person mode to aim your axe, your shotgun, or your pistol, those are 3 weapons, it goes into first person. And it's a little bit disorienting. I think that it could be a little snappier with the transition. It could be a little smoother. Because sometimes enemies are encroaching upon you. You'll have demonic enemies coming to take a chunk out of your booty, and you need to take care of them. And so you snap into first person mode to shoot them or to hit them with your axe or whatever. And it just takes half a second too long. And sometimes your camera's not quite pointed the right way, so that when you go into first person mode, it turns out you're looking the complete wrong direction. And so you're oh shit, okay, you gotta work it around. So it takes some getting used to, and I will say that combat is not the strong suit of this game. It's I played it on whatever the easy mode was, and I will say, full disclosure, there's an item when you are setting up your game from the very beginning. They ask you, would you like infinite health refill? Say yes. Just say yes, because I'm not convinced that the health distribution in the game is correct. I tried to not use the infinite health system at the beginning, and I got into some real trouble. I was learning the combat's clunky, I was taking some hits, and I think that if I did not have the infinite health item, I would have probably had to restart, because I ran out of health too quickly and I was taking too much damage. But you do have this option to have the infinite health item, and you don't have to use it. You can just have it. There's nothing wrong with that. You can just hold it in your inventory if you wish. But I did use it multiple times, and I used it mostly in the beginning, and I used it less and less as the game went on. So I got more used to it. I had more weapons. And I honestly think the distribution of enemies and the distribution of life got better as the game went on. I felt like it was the worst at the beginning. Not terrible, but it was a little bit concerning. So I think the combat itself is a little shaky. Clearly not the game's strong point, although I did appreciate its inclusion, because it gives you something to do when you're not talking to sexily androgynous queer people, and when you're not like looking through your third eye at the demon realm. So I appreciate the combat was there. It's smart to have something there, and I agree with it. It just needs a bit of polish. So I will say I'm also very surprised that this game has no sex scenes. It is not. There's no unsafe for work content in the game at all. I mean, there's some suggestive images. There are pictures in here that maybe you wouldn't want your mom looking at if she would like walk through the room and looked over your shoulder. But there's no sex. There's no porn. It's not that kind of game. It's on the PlayStation. It's on Xbox. It's a regular console game. But there's vibes. There's energy. And if this was on Steam, I definitely, I think there would be some triple X content. I would pay $250 to unlock the adult scenes in this game if they existed. It would be a perfect fit. It wouldn't seem out of place at all. So I dig it. I think Sorry We're Closed is really cool. I think it's very on point with everything it tries to do. I think it's extremely successful for a developer who's just coming out with their own games right now. Everything about it I think is great. I mean, yeah, it could use a little polish here or there. Some of the camera angles were hard to use. The combat wasn't great. But overall, this game just like hits way, 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 way more than it misses. And I had just like a blast. I finished the whole thing in like 3 sittings, and I got to go for the ending that I enjoyed and that I wanted, and I thought that was good. And it was just really fun to play. So if anything I'm saying sounds great, I definitely strongly recommend check it out. I think this is going to be one of the strong contenders for me this year. It just is so strong with its vibes, graphics, impressions, overall energy. Just everything about it just really pops. I think these developers over at Alamode are really talented, and I am very, very excited to see what they do next. So definitely a huge thumbs up. And shit, why not? Let's give it an actual review score here. I give Sorry We're Closed the official. I'm going to give it like an 8.5. Really loved it a lot. Combat could have been polished up a little bit, but overall, just fantastic stuff. So I say 8.5, a strong 8.5. Good stuff. That's the official So Videogames review. And that is, once again, Sorry We're Closed from Alamode Games. And Akupara is the publisher, and I played it on PS5, which is a great place to play it. All right, folks. Game portion of the show is now officially done, but like many humans, I do spend a few minutes a week in front of screens that don't have menus or life bars. That's right, it's time for the TV and movie roundup. All right, first up is a show that I don't think I've mentioned in quite a while. Umbrella Academy on Netflix, based on a comic book series, which, if memory serves, was written by the singer from My Chemical Romance, I believe. I'm not super familiar with that band. I'm not like a fan of it. I mean, not like I dislike it or anything. I just don't know their music. I haven't listened to them very much, so this is not a criticism in any way. But I do remember seeing the comic, and I remember like avoiding it because I was like, oh, this is probably just like some vanity project for this comic book or this musician guy, and it's probably going to be crap, whatever. So I remember seeing the Umbrella Academy in comic book stores because it started off as this comic and then it became a Netflix series. And we started watching season 1 a while ago. We liked season 1, but then we caught up with it and the other seasons didn't exist yet. So we forgot about it. And now that I remembered it, there are 4 seasons in total. And I believe that's the total story from what I can tell. So we just started over from the beginning. We didn't remember much of it. And it's like, let's just refresh our memories. And it's actually been quite good. Really good, in fact. Uncommonly good. Basically, the story is that at one point in, I want to say it's 1989 or something like that, a number of like 73 women around the world suddenly get pregnant. The baby grows, and they deliver the baby all within like 10 minutes. So like they start at the morning not pregnant, going about their day, going to swimming class, going to their job, driving on the road, whatever. And then all of a sudden, holy shit, something's wrong. And then my tummy gets real big. And then, oh my God, I'm pregnant. And then, oh my God, I've got a baby, all in the same day. And all of these babies all have some kind of special power or powers. And that's the basic starting premise. And so it goes from there that there's a billionaire eccentric guy who goes around and buys a bunch of the babies, which, I mean, questionable. But he collects, I think, 7 of the babies out of the 73 or whatever, and raises them in this giant school that is also his house that's in New York, and he calls it the Umbrella Academy, and he trains them all to be superheroes. But it all goes horribly wrong. He's a terrible father figure. all the kids feel very neglected and kind of taken advantage of. And they grow up to have like a lot of problems. Like they're very upset, they feel insecure, they're unhappy. And some of them don't really know how to deal with their powers very well. And the whole thing just kind of is this really broken, dysfunctional family sort of story. But I mean, good starting premise. And it reminds me a lot of Doom Patrol. I don't know if anybody has seen Doom Patrol, but I love Doom Patrol, the HBO series or Max series or whatever. A lot in common. Doom Patrol, you're not going to get into that right now, but very similar notes, kind of dysfunctional family vibe, a lot of weirdness and stuff. And so I think Umbrella Academy is in the same bucket. Doom Patrol is definitely weirder and more irreverent, but still the same darkness and family and feelings and emotions and stuff like that. Relationships. So we are about halfway through season 3, and it's just been really good, uncommonly good. All the actors are giving great performances. I think the special effects are pretty cool. The stories have a lot of twists and turns that are very exciting, and the relationship elements are quite good. They do quite a bit of time travel in this show, and so they go back and forth in various timelines, and I think that's all handled really well. And it's just a great fucking show. Like, really funny, weird, sometimes sexy, sometimes dark, sometimes sad, sometimes happy. It just runs the gamut. And I think just seeing these different characters bounce off of each other is really like the star of the show. Like how these characters interact, how they went from kids to adults, what that means now, why are they so fucked up now, and everything about it. I think it's just really, really quite good. I love all of the actors' performances, the storylines. It's all just like, I mean, we're watching like at least one episode a day, just eating it up and just really, really enjoying it quite a bit. So big thumbs up to Umbrella Academy. Speaking of which, of series, I guess, we finished School Spirits a while ago, season 2 of School Spirits. This is the show about a girl who gets murdered in her high school. She becomes a ghost that has to stay on the premises of the high school, and she has to try to find out who her killer is. It's more than that. And like Umbrella Academy, there's a lot of relationship stuff that goes on. How do you feel about being dead? How do you relate to people who aren't dead? What does this mean? What does your life mean? Where do you go from here? Like, it's a lot of like existential questions, but it's also just kind of sweet and funny and adventure-y and sometimes spooky. It's just really, I mean, School Spirits is amazing. I think it's a great show. We finished season 2. I believe season 3 is coming, and season 2 ends on a cliffhanger for sure. But I do feel like the story really advanced, and I felt like it was just a great watch all the way through. I will say I am feeling just a little tiny bit nervous about School Spirits because I feel like, so this is kind of a complicated point. So like, hang with me for a second here. So when the story begins, you know that the main character is dead. She's a ghost. You get it. They establish the rules of what does it mean to be a ghost pretty quickly. How do ghosts relate to the real world? What does the afterlife look like? They get into that all and they settle it pretty quickly, which is good. But then the story kind of gets complicated and they start adding little wrinkles to how being a ghost works, which is okay. But I feel like at this point I have hit max complexity for how being a ghost works. I feel like if they add any more wrinkles, any more rules to it, that it's going to be overcomplicated. And I think they're going to get lost in their own like mythology and stuff like that. Like, I think just keep it simple, keep the focus on the characters. Let us know how they feel. Let us know what they're going through. I think that was all fine. But it's starting to get a little bit more complex. Like, oh, well, we can go to this place, but not this place. And this character can do this thing, but not this other thing. I don't want to spoil anything here, but I think they're dangerously close to getting like a little bit silly, overcomplicated with the rules of being a ghost, how it works in their universe. So as long as they stop here, I'm fine. But I'm a little bit worried that they're going to get more complex, and it's just going to be, I don't know, a little bit ridiculous at that point. But I will say, that aside, that's just my fear. Has not been confirmed yet. But School Spirits season 1 and season 2, I believe it's on Hulu. Really good. And especially season 1, like fucking killer. Every episode of season 1 was great. Season 2 also quite strong. So good stuff there. Final thing that I will talk about is a movie I just watched called Shadow in the Cloud. This one is just a really interesting movie. Like, it surprised me multiple times. I wasn't quite sure what to expect. I didn't get what I expected, which was good. And overall, I mean, quite a watch. The premise here is that it's like in World War II era, and there's a flight that's in New Zealand, and they are going to go, I forget where they're going. They're going somewhere. They're going to the UK, or they're going somewhere to drop off. Oh, Samoa, that's what it was. They're going to Samoa from New Zealand to drop off some supplies for the Allies. And right before they take off, a woman gets on the plane And everybody in the plane are all men, and they're very surprised. She says, I've got special orders. I'm on a secret mission. You got to take me to Samoa. And nobody in the plane knows what's going on. They're like, what are you talking about? We don't know anything about this. I didn't hear about any orders. So whatever. They end up taking her on the plane and they take off. But it's not just that, because in the trailer, they reveal that there is a monster in the skies, kind of like a vampire. And so that is like a complicating factor. But it's also more than that as well. Once the plane takes off, I will say that it becomes a very difficult watch because almost every man on the plane is like this raving, sexist, chauvinist asshole. And as she is on the plane, she's listening to the comm system. They're talking shit about her, talking about what they'd like to do to her, talking about what she looks like, all these like really gross comments. And it just goes over the top. And when she pushes back a little bit, they push back even harder. And it becomes very, very, very uncomfortable. The level of sexism and the shit they were talking was just, it was tough to listen to. I was uncomfortable. The wife was very uncomfortable. I was just like, oh my God, this is like over the top. And it was pretty over the top. And if I didn't know more about the film, that might have been quit worthy for me. We might have bailed right there. But thankfully, we did know that the director of this film is Roseanne Lang, who is a woman. She's also Asian. She's also a Kiwi from New Zealand. And she's also the director of Creamery, which was fucking amazing. That story, just quick tangent here, is about a disease that kills basically every man in the world. And so the only people that are left are women. So it's a very feminist forward story, and they kind of tackle what that means. It's a comedy, but it's also sci-fi and it's also fantasy. Creamery is fucking amazing. I definitely give that a huge thumbs up. Strong recommendation. Creamerie. Love Creamery. So good. And so we knew she was the same person. So I'm like, okay, let's give it some grace and see where it goes. And it eventually gets to a good place. I think there is method to the madness of having all that harassment at the beginning of the film. I think it does resolve itself by the end, and it becomes kind of a feminist story with that the main lady played by Chloe Grace Moretz. She kind of pushes back, she stands up, she does a lot of fighting, she becomes a strong character, and so I think that there's a little bit of an arc for her. There's also an arc for some of the guys who they come around at the end, and so I think that works out as well. And so it's about this like wartime, one woman on a plane full of assholes kind of story, but then the vampire monster shows up, and that just throws a whole fucking big wrench into everything. It's tearing apart the plane, it's killing the people, they have like all these crazy battles. It's really wild, and I'm not going to spoil it, but like other things happen, and just like, wow, like we were all like feeling a little bit of whiplash because it just did not end up like the movie we thought it was going to be. We expected, Vampire in the Skies, and that's okay, but like it was much more than that in many angles. So I thought Shadow in the Cloud was quite good. I will say, though, I don't know that Chloe Grace Moretz was the right actress for the lead role. I know that she's a recognizable name, but to be perfectly honest, I don't think she had the gravitas to kind of carry it off. I don't know. She kind of looked like a little bit too much like a little girl. She's very youthful looking, and I think in this particular role, for us anyway, the wife and me, I think we would have wanted somebody who just had a little more chutzpah, a little more grit to them, perhaps. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it was the point that she did look like a little girl, kind of. Maybe that was kind of more of what the director's trying to get to. I'm not sure exactly, but I don't think she was like perfect for the role. There's a couple scenes where I was like, she could have had a little bit more emotion here or there, or it could have been, I don't know. I don't want to tear her down, but like, it perhaps was not the right casting. I think they picked perfect assholes to play the assholes. Everybody in that plane who's an asshole really seems like an asshole. So good casting there. The monster looks quite cool. So yeah, it was overall quite good. Just be warned that beginning, the first 20 minutes, 30 minutes are a little bit of a tough watch. It's pretty gross, but they get it to a better place. But overall, ended up liking it a lot. It was really wild. It was just fucking wild. After the movie, the wife and I turned to each other and go, "Did you like that?" And she's like, "I think I did. Maybe. What do you think?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I think I did. I kind of hated it, but then I kind of liked it. But now I think I love it, or maybe I just like it. I don't know. It's one of those that just really makes you think. But overall, I think it was good stuff. So anyway, Shadow in the Cloud. We watched it on Netflix. I'm sure you can find it other places. All right, folks, that is a show. It feels like it took forever for me to get the show out the door. I apologize for its lateness. I'm still kind of like trying to shift into the proper gear to compensate for show production with everything that's going on in my life. So there's going to be a couple bumps and bruises and a couple of delays. Hopefully this will be the most delayed show. I've got another show coming up in about 2 days, so you might see 2 episodes back to back. So look for that, and then hopefully from that point we'll get back on track and everything will be fine. So again, apologies for the delay, but I think I've got it all worked out now. Anyway, before the closing music, I would love for you to leave reviews, share the show on social media, but most important of all, please recommend the show to your friends because nothing beats good old word of mouth. And as always, would love to get your questions and comments. Email me directly at sovideogamespodcast@gmail.com. Hit me up on social media. You can find me on Instagram and Blue Sky. It's my name, BRADGALLAWAY, all A's, no O's. You can also hit me up in the Video Games Discord, which is totally free of charge to join. Just drop me a line through any of the channels I just mentioned, and we'll get you on board to continue the conversation. And finally, if you would like to support the show and help with the ever-increasing costs of running the podcast, you can do that over at patreon.com/the Video Games Podcast. Every single dollar helps, and €1 helps that much more. All right, folks, that's going to do it for episode 431. Apologies for the lateness, but thank you again for joining me here on the Video Games Podcast, and I'll actually see you quite soon. I'll see you in 2 days.